Pennyblood Hellbound is the roguelite, yes, light, I don't care if it's roguelike, this is more of a roguelite, spin-off prequel that is based off of Pennyblood, which was a crowdfunded game on Fantasia, Pennyblood being a special successor to the Shadowheart franchise, and while the main Pennyblood game is in some sort of limbo state due to a lawsuit, kind of go over it more in my video about Kickstarters, Pennyblood Hellbound was made being approached by Natsume Atari Studios, who basically pitched this idea, and also the fact that funding this project, if people buy it, also helps fund the main game itself. So, kills two birds with one stone, so why the hell not? Although this game originally was early access, while I bought it when I was in early access, I didn't actually play it until now, or it's completely done. So, I have no comments about the early access version of it. The main premise is that the Hellhounders, who are a terrorist group that go around assassinating VIPs and government officials after the events of the Great War, now find themselves stuck in some weird interdimensional jail referred to Mictlan, but also met up with Clara, or at least she goes by that name, because she's amnesiac and doesn't remember anything about her life, but that's what I decided to basically call her first adventure. And now it's up to all of them to pretty much try to escape this place and figure out what's even going on and why they're even here. One thing I won't say I like right off the bat is the fact that you're blatantly playing as a villain group, and at no point do they ever try to shy away from the fact that the Hellhounders are in fact bad people. Granted, you could argue that they're more of the good person in this scenario, what's going on, but when bosses and the enemies call them out for their crimes and how they belong in a jail with this kind of place, they don't really argue against it. They just argue, F you, we're getting out. So I do like that whole entire aspect, that they don't try to shy away that these are not good people at all. There's also a purgatory entry book, which will periodically update with new information about characters once information has been learned and everything, and there are also side characters who can recruit to your hideout, but I'll talk more about that in the gameplay section. But overall, comes to the game's narrative, it's alright. It's not anything super amazing, although because this is a roguelike game, you want to do multiple runs of the game in order to even find out all the information, because beating the game once is not enough. You need to beat the game multiple times. From what I recall, at least like 5 times, though, to be honest, it could have turned out to 4, in order to pretty much get all the information and get the actual real conclusion. Interesting enough, after your first attempt, after your first good run, the game actually prompts you to get a blatant bad ending, and only on that attempt do you get that option. Every other attempt, you're just going in to try to learn more about what's going on. But there's a hunter aspect, so bit weird to get an option once, but hey, that's kind of the alternate nature of roguelites to repeat the process. Now for the gameplay, we're able to take 2 characters with you, although not all the Hellhounders are unlocked by default. You get more of them as you progress, but get the vast majority. So the main gameplay, kind of a beat-em-up style, with the fact that throughout the boards you go through, you get power-ups, whether it be passive power-ups or more active abilities. And I'll be honest with you, despite how big the boards are and how many abilities you can get, I just didn't really find many of them all that useful, especially since at first you are very limited on how many abilities you can even equip. And trying to get more ability slots takes a lot to do, because this game at first tries to be more simple, straightforward what resources you need to upgrade, until later on where there's like 5 billion different resources you need to upgrade your characters, which is also a problem for me, because it kind of meant I should prioritize my 2 favorite characters and not bother with anyone else because of how long it'll take for them to catch back up. If you're playing normal difficulty, which I was at first, this game from the get-go is just brutal. Like, from the get-go, enemies can just deal a third of your health in 1 hit at times. It just feels so ridiculous. I even looked it up, and some other people mentioned how the first board in the game is the most difficult one in the game, and it just feels weird that they front-load all the difficulty right off the bat. But you can switch the difficulty to be easier, and after you beat your first run, you can also go for a higher difficulty. But I stuck with the easier difficulty because when there's a downside of boss fights not being that interesting because of how easier it is, I'm not losing a third of my HP in 1 hit and going, what the hell's going on? So I don't know, I thought the difficulty should have been more balanced, because I prefer the boss fight. I prefer the bosses more challenging, but I also don't want to deal with they deal ridiculous amount of damage. Like, but when I got to the first boss fight in this game, I realized just how little damage I was doing. Then the amount of resources needed to even upgrade, and needed to go like, I get it. It's a roguelite and everything, key progression for each run, everything. But the sheer amount of stuff they want you to get just to even afford one upgrade gets ridiculous. It's also the fact that the active abilities you get that you can use also just aren't that special. I just mostly stuck with the character's main attacks, because the quirk of this game is that the final hit of a character's combo has a bit of a wind-up, but always do the most damage. And I just found that better to use than any of the active abilities that are generally short use and don't really do much for damage at all. Like, sometimes they can help stun lock enemies, sometimes they can help you fight from a distance. Let's just play a character who's a ranged person, in which case, guy point kind of becomes moot. But it just feels weird how the active abilities are, and there's so many. You can get duplicates to make them more powerful in a run with your active and passive abilities, be able to upgrade up to level 5. But good luck doing that, because I swear the game will just cycle through the same abilities you don't have on you over and over, leaving you constantly just going, can I just upgrade the things I got? And the game's like, no. Also the fact that you don't get higher tiers of skills unless you get an upgrade that just increases a chance of them showing up, and you get it. So there's no way just permanently have them be upgrading, just get a level 2 upgrade. It's always a chance, and it may not be the skill you want that gets upgraded, because some skills I feel just don't have a point, or just feels too worthless to use. Like, there's a game where playing favorites with your abilities feels way too easy to fall into, and there's also just not enough variety or uniqueness in the abilities to the point where it feels like you're gonna be focusing on just getting the same stuff you had before. And despite the fact that you can't upgrade the characters to have more passive abilities, it requires so many resources that you probably even forget you had the opportunity to do so based on the resources on something else entirely, which I kept doing by accident. As for the boards themselves, each board for each of the villains you go up against are pretty well done and are doing a variety. The issue is more the bosses themselves. The bosses are good, very good. They're very fun to go up against. The issue is the bosses don't have any variety in them. So when this game asks you to beat multiple runs, you're gonna fight the same boss with no difference. So despite the fact that you're getting more powerful, the bosses don't get more powerful as each run goes on. So you're gonna be fighting the exact same thing over and over and over and over. Despite the boards trying to add variety with the abilities you can get randomly, the enemies don't change. This is on top of the fact that even on an easier difficulty, a successful run can still take about an hour at the lowest, sometimes over an hour, in order to fully complete, depending on how much of the board you go for upgrades. But since the upgrades are random, going for the upgrades can kind of feel like wasting your time if they don't give you anything worthwhile or anything to boost what you currently got. It's also none of my frustrations, the fact that I'm going through this, spending time, and then getting nothing out of it because of how the system works. And I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but just other games in this genre I felt did this better. So like One Step from Eden would have more variety, but also would shift up the order of the bosses, with bosses you fight later being more difficult, having more to their moveset. But here it's the same bosses in the same order every time, doing the same moves for every single run, no matter how successful. You don't even have new dialogue for going against them. You don't have a new dialogue if you beat them once or if you lost them before. But aside from that, they don't have anything else to say, despite the fact that they're constantly going against the same opponent, which just feels so weird that despite how much grander this game feels compared to other roguelites I've played, it just doesn't really have as much variety or stuff going on to keep things interesting, especially when you're asking the player to do multiple successful runs. So successful, like I said, a run can take up to an hour, and there's no saving in between. So I would be freaking devastated if I got to the final board and then effing died to restart over. Like, I'm the kind of person when it comes to a roguelite where I'm like, just one more run. No, if I get close and I fail, especially the game that takes like an hour in order to even attempt a complete run, I'm like, I'm done. I'm just done playing for now. I'll play something else. So that's just demotivating. So weird, like, the fact that other roguelites I played generally take like 20 or 30 minutes for a full run. Here it takes an hour, and you can't sit in between it. You must complete the run as you go. Like, once again, it's kind of like a shorter run at that point, which technically you can make it shorter, just beeline it towards the boss, but at this point, you're also sabotaging yourself because you're just beelining it towards the boss, but at the same time, the RNG could just make it waste your time anyway, and you see the paradox. You see my issue. Going for upgrades feels like a crapshoot that's most of the time not worth it in my case, but at the same time, I have to go down and make my characters more powerful before I get to the boss. Now for the more permanent upgrades you get, there are characters you'll find throughout the boards who you can either recruit to your hideout or will be an AI companion for that run. And their usefulness generally varies, but hey, better to have them than not have them, you know. But the ones you recruit to your hideout can basically take equipment there and make it way better. Once again, there's like a many different currencies in this game in order to upgrade your stuff, so it can be kind of a hassle to get stuff upgraded, especially if you dare to use more than just 2 characters. But the characters do help out and do have their own little events and side quests for their whole entire story. It's helping purgatory entries, also updating, so you do get nice dialogue bits with them, nice side quest stuff, nice interaction between the entire cast. Even characters who don't come to your hideout can get mentioned and discussed about in the hideout events, so that's also nice. They're not left out, even if when it comes to their main role, they don't have much to say at all. But that's pretty cool. There's also some characters who require you to fulfill a task before they even join your hideout to begin with, which is also kind of interesting way, especially since there's not many people you can recruit, so this was more guaranteed to run into them again with the next run, you know. So that's kind of nice. For the AI companions, I really found useful is one AI companion who's is a healer, so obviously maybe more biased, but this game tends to be kind of stingy with healing, especially in the final stage where there just is going to be a 90% chance there's no healing for you before the final boss. So having that healer is pretty nice, but it is random who joins you, so there is that to kind of shake things up. Or you can have my luck, or you can just oftentimes just have freaking no one join you at all. Just no one wants to join you during the run, which does suck, but hey, it's all luck of the draw, I guess. Interestingly enough, there's also an online multiplayer mode where you can either invite someone or play with a random person online for a co-op adventure, which is freaking cool, especially for a roguelite. That is freaking cool. I haven't tried it myself because I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel like many people are playing this game. Hell, according to achievements, I'm one of the few people who actually beat all the runs, got the actual final ending. According to YouTube, I'm like the second person, period, who has actually gotten all the runs. I'm not one other person who actually did that. So, when I find people, probably a bit difficult to find, but if you do, hey, that's a cool option you could do. Probably might alleviate stuff, but although probably it's where only people play probably be people who are very heavily upgraded, so trying to do it right off the bat might just have people basically escorting you around because they're way more powerful than you currently are, especially trying to use the mode straight from the get-go. What I really like about the AI companion you have with you is the fact that they don't take damage as long as you're not controlling them. Only the character you're controlling takes damage. The other character is low on HP, goes on to the other character and prevent their health bar from going down lower, which is very good because of how incredibly hectic this game gets with so many enemies, that can just damage you easily, especially on the run mode to deal with ridiculous amount of damage. So it is a very helpful thing that your companion is effectively immortal under those circumstances. Also, the game's main combat mechanic is blood surfing, where to fight enemies, they will bleed, and if blood on the ground, they can start surfing on it, which not only just feels fun to do because it makes you very mobile, it also gives you this very cool attack that does a lot of damage and generally sends enemies flying, which is a very cool thing. On the other hand, this game has accessories you can get to equip, and one of the accessories gives you an extra 20% to your attack. All it asks of you is to lose the ability of blood surfing. I totally took this offer and spent most of the game not being able to use blood surfing, which revealed to me how some bosses have attacks that are flat out impossible to dodge, or some being very hard to dodge if you don't have access to blood surfing because you need extra mobility, and dodging has a cooldown. So yeah, some attacks felt like complete cheap shots because of it, because it isn't me doing a self-fulfilling straight. This is a mechanic of the game you gave me, and I'm being punished for it by unavoidable damage. So I'm just saying. Overall, I do like Pennyblood Hellbound, even if some of the choices it makes, like, once again, I wish there was more variety. I wish the bosses had more to them. Like, I wish I did a pull on one stuff from Eden, where the bosses were also randomized, and later bosses would be more difficult as a result, but they're required of having more movesets. Like I said, you're going to ask the player to beat your campaign multiple times, then you need to add more to it. They do add more like, in the vein of stuff for the hideout to get and more stuff like that, but when it comes to actual stuff in the freaking gameplay, not much changes with the combat. Enemies are the same, the bosses are the exact same, and the only thing you're guessing building up to is for the big final boss. But like I said, it's being asked to do multiple runs of that. That's implying you're just doing 5 successful runs. Imagine you also die midway as a result to start a new run over. Yeah, it's a roguelite, so many things carry over and many buffs come with you as a result. But it just highlights the fact that at some point there's just not enough variety in this game. Eventually, it's going to become more frustrating. It's up to the fact of since so many upgrades require so many currencies and they share currencies to upgrade, you could decide to buff your weapon and then be unable to unlock a new passive skill slot, which requires so much to do, and there's so many passive skill slots. Come on, game. Or you could just get freaking active skills in your run and then get like no opportunities to buff them, and what the game will give you, hey, here's a chance for level 2 of this skill you don't want, or this skill you also don't want, and it just feels like very annoying. There's one time where I had a skill, I went through several boards, and I couldn't get a single upgrade for it. I eventually replaced it for a different skill and had a small chance of bestowing out a level 3. After I freaking did that, the game started suddenly giving me more of that skill all of a sudden. What the actual hell? Just the fact that the game does also have a reroll ability, which you can unlock more times for reroll, but it's rerolls total per run. Like I said, since the run takes like over an hour to even do, rerolling can feel like it doesn't really add much of anything, especially when the pool of skills aren't a huge amount. It's just more the fact that the game will try everything in its power to prevent giving you what you want, you know? So, for all, it is a good title, but I don't know, out of all the roguelites I've played, I just feel like it pretty much isn't as good as those. It's a good time, but just not what I say it's one of them up there with the rest, because I could have used more variety. But hey, it's a game designed to help fund Pennyblood. I mean, it's a good game, so that's cool. So the fact that you get an upgrade to have a baby Cthulhu show up, you can actually also do a minigame for it. And I swear the picture of that minigame is the same QT minigame that they showed in the Pennyblood campaign trailer as a concept of the gameplay. So that's a freaking nice touch that is the case. But like I said, it's a good time. Characters, definitely very good. Like I said, the fact that they keep maintaining these are villains, and the fact that some characters tend to forget that they're dealing with villains and not like righteous heroes. So the fact they stick to that you're going against people who may not necessarily be good guys, but they're certainly not as villainous as you are. So I do like that whole attention to detail. Like I said, this game honestly could have been trimmed to 4 successful runs, rated 5, but I guess 5 is a golden number and everything. So that's all I want to talk about. Alrighty then, that is all. Good day.